back at Bhagavad Gita class. So we said Bhagavad Gita class. But this is a section of the Srimad Bhagavatam we've been studying in the morning. And it was really pertinent because we just had our cow festival. And the theme, of course, is cow protection of the cow festival. Well, we realized this year, we thought, well, maybe we actually should present the philosophy of cow protection a little more clearly at the cow festival. Well, we thought about this the day before the cow festival, so we didn't really have a chance to develop it for this year's cow festival. But since the festival was so recent, I thought it was still pertinent, and I'm practicing for next year. So I'm working it out for next year. So I've got a picture on the board of this story. I'm going to go into in Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 7, Canto 1, chapter 17, entitled Punishment and Reward of Kali. And has this very unusual scene. And I'm going to read the first, I think it's 5 or 6 verses. So I got so into it, I got so many names here. It's not going to be this lengthy. Let's see, okay. 17, 1 through 6. I'll just read them. So instead of usually we do a verse and everybody can practice the Sanskrit, but I'm covering the story this time. So 1. Sutta Goswami said, after reaching that place, Maharaj Parikshit observed that a lower caste Shudra, dressed like a king, was beating a cow and a bull with a club, as if they had no owner. I'll explain this a little bit. First of all, Maharaj Parikshit is a great saintly king, and he's a grandson of Arjuna, and Arjuna is the companion of Krishna. And Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, and usually we give the Bhagavad Gita class. So anyway, Parikshit Maharaj is the grandson of Arjuna. And he's every bit as great and pure and powerful as his grandfathers, the 5 Pandavas. One of them is real grandfather, the others are like uncle grandfathers. And a low caste Shudra. A Shudra is someone who is not spiritually aware or awakened or trained up. He's not initiated to begin a spiritual life. He's just basic materialist. Okay? And he probably doesn't have a propensity for more. Or maybe he does, but he has, a start at the beginning kind of thing. But this is a lower caste Shudra, and he's got no spiritual qualification at all. Because what he's doing, he's dressed like a king, who is supposed to be a great saintly person, spiritually trained up. This is 5,000 years ago. And this is what the culture was like. So he was dressed like a king, but he's a total imposter. What he's doing is beating a cow and a bull on the legs. So he's being cruel to a cow and a bull. This isn't a time and a culture of cow protection. So this is a startling scene to the king. So 2, the bull was as white as a white lotus flower. He was terrified of the Shudra who was beating him. And he was so afraid that he was standing on one leg, trembling and urinating. 3, although the cow is beneficial, because one can draw religious principles from her, she was now rendered poor and calfless. Her legs were being beaten by a Shudra. There were tears in her eyes, and she was distressed and weak. She was hankering after some grass in the field. 4, Maharaj Parikshit, well equipped with arrows and bow and seated on a gold-embossed chariot, spoke to him, the Shudra, with a deep voice sounding like thunder. 5, oh, who are you? You appear to be strong, and yet you dare kill, within my protection, those who are helpless. By your dress you pose yourself to be a godly man, king, but by your deeds you are opposing the principles of the twice-born Kshatriyas. Twice-born means first you have the regular birth, and you have spiritual birth, it's your initiation, and the Kshatriya is another word for the kingly order. So, 6, you rogue, do you dare beat an innocent cow because Lord Krishna and Arjuna, the carrier of the Gandiva bow, are out of sight? Since you are beating the innocent in a secluded place, you are considered a culprit and therefore deserve to be killed. 6, okay. So this is, I have on there a picture of the characters in this story. There's a cow and a bull. They're extremely unhappy. The bull has 3 legs cut off. He's terrified. He's got tears in his eyes. And he's rendered helpless and useless. He can't work. He's got 3 legs cut off. The cow has no calf. The calf's been taken away. And she's crying and she's hankering for some grass in the field. That means she's living a life of deprivation. She doesn't get to go and eat grass in the field. So this is, and then we have the great pure king, and we have the Shudra. who is the imposter that I talked about. So these are the characters in this story. And at the bottom you might see that I have written 3 levels of understanding. There's 3 levels of understanding that turn up in this chapter. And the first one is a basic cow protection. Okay, obviously, the cow and the bull are not being protected. They're being eaten. Probably going to be killed. It looks like that was the plan. And they foretell the situation of almost every cow in the world today. I don't know about almost every cow. In India, I'm sure there are cows that, our cows are not treated like this. But most cows, millions and billions of cows today, are treated like this. They have no grass in the field. They don't get to raise their calves. They're mistreated. They are terrified. They're crying. The bull is rendered helpless and useless. And there's no he can't have any economic value alive. And the cow is only good while she gets milk. So this is like a foretelling 5,000 years ago in an age of cow protection. This is a foretelling of the modern situation today. Why we need to talk about cow protection. So that's one level. I have to say it like this. I want to describe cow protection itself if it's properly done. The cow produces milk. From milk comes, obviously, nutrition, all kinds of sweets and so forth, and also ghee. You can make ghee, and ghee is useful in ceremonial offerings to the Lord. So ghee is required part of the Brahminical culture, because the Brahmanas do these offerings, and the Brahmanas guide society. So the Brahmanas make sure that society is peaceful and spiritual. They teach this, and they live it, and the cow, the milk of the cow supports it by nice peaceful food and by the ghee that can be offered in the ceremonies. The bull helps to plow the field, ideally, to grow grains. So you need to eat and eat, grow grains. And keeps the whole population more peaceful, it's kind of pure, it's kind of close to the land, it's kind of simple, and supports spiritual life. So this is proper cow protection. That's the first level of understanding. It's the king's duty to protect that. So he's got to make sure, you see, and he's also the king's duty is to protect every living entity in his kingdom. And this king happened to be the king of the world. So he's astounded that this is happening because he doesn't want any innocent living beings beaten and killed. He would protect against that. And especially the cow and the bull. It's so disrespectful to the culture that he's supposed to be protecting. He's quite astounded. And this hasn't happened in this kingdom before. So let me check and make sure. So the second level starts to be revealed, because the next thing, Parikshit Maharaj starts to wonder, this is a regular cow and the bull. He starts to sense there's another dimension. There are demigods. They're higher beings that we wouldn't be able to see unless they let themselves be seen. They are in charge of managing the practical affairs of the universe. They're delegated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they manage things that actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead is controlling, but he shares. He shares the activity. And so they are personalities in high positions with great powers. And they can, if they want to, come down to earth. And they can come down to earth and make themselves visible in any form they want. If they want to be cows and talk, they can do that. And in those days, it wasn't so uncommon because the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself had just been to the earth. And plus the Mother Earth had gone to the heavenly kingdoms to ask him to come and help with her situation with too many armies. So it was not unheard of. The demigods would come and go to fire sacrifices because of the great saintly kings. The demigods would come, and sometimes they'd be visible. So this was not really unheard of in those days. To us, it would be pretty strange because it doesn't really, our age is sort of flat that way. But the demigods are still there. But in those times, 5,000 years ago. So Parikshit Maharaj knew In other words, that a demigod could come as a form of a cow. So he saw he felt that something was extra special about this situation. So, so text 7. Then he, Maharaj Parikshit, asked the bull. He went ahead and spoke to him. Oh, who are you? Are you a bull as white as a white lotus, or are you a demigod? You have lost 3 of your legs and are moving on only one. Are you some demigod causing us grief in the form of a bull? And then follows several verses where he's expressing that he's quite upset that this bad thing has happened, and he's vowing he's going to rectify it. He's going to give protection, and he's going to kill the culprit. Because he feels now, if this is a demigod, it's come down to his planet, and get beaten up by a Shudra, his reputation's on the line. This is big. So he's doubly determined. He's going to take action. He's going to punish. And so he also he wants a statement from the bull. He wants the bull to make a statement. He wants to know who the bull really is. But if you're a demigod, who are you? And he also wants a statement from the bull, and he also wants to know. He wants the bull to say who the accused is. Although he could see, for some reason he wants the bull to say it, that this Shudra did it. And he wants to know if the bull is a demigod, perhaps, then who is the Shudra? So he wants to know this kind of thing. So he asks the bull, who are you? Are you some demigod? And let's see what this says. So the bull gives a reply. The bull starts speaking, proving now that he's a demigod. He starts speaking. He tells Parikshit Maharaj, first he congratulates him. Congratulates him on this firm determination to take the right action, do the punishing, do the protecting. He says, you're worthy of being, you're just like the Pandavas, you're just like your grandfathers. You're just as good a devotee as they are, just as empowered by Krishna as they are, and just as pure-hearted and knowledgeable as they are, and courageous as they are, as they were. You know, it's a couple generations later. So then he begins to answer the question. How does he, after congratulating Maharaj Krishna, everything Maharaj Krishna said, not criticizing anything, now he says, it's very difficult to ascertain who the culprit is. So all of a sudden it's like a contradiction. So he has his reasons. He said, oh, this philosophy, too many opinions, too much philosophy, too many factors. He says, some say the self does it, causes problems. Some say higher powers, I guess that would mean demigods, cause it. Some say karma, or one's actions that come back at one, causes the problems. And some say nature causes it. And then some say you can't figure it out. So he says, so I'm very reluctant to say who it is. And the culprit is right there, which is strange. And so what happens next? What happens is Parikshit Maharaj now recognizes who he is. He has his answer. And he congratulates the bull back. This bull is not just any demigod, this bull is Dharma, the personality of religion. By the way he answers, by his complete philosophical understanding, Maharaj Parikshit congratulates him and says, you know philosophy, you know the truth. So you can be none other than the personality of religion. And so, I think I'm getting ahead. That was actually level 3. Well, that's just the story how it went. And then, so I'll describe level 2 and then level 3. So, then he went ahead and he went to kill the culprit anyways. So we have apparently contradiction of opinion here. And yet we have apparently mutual congratulations and agreement. I'll get to that shortly. So now the second level, now we know who they are. This is the second level. We know this is the personality of religion. Religion stands on 4 legs, or 4 principles. They are austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. And now there's only 1 leg left. And this leg, Prabhupada explains in the purport, is truthfulness. You might wonder, don't see that much around. But people still value truthfulness. Even though they lie all the time, they still criticize liars, and they value truthfulness. So there's something left of that one, but it's getting shaky. So this bull is on the 1 leg that he's trembling. And So he's the principal personality of religion, and so this is about religion. And then the cow is actually Mother Earth. So let's see, the next one is, what does it say? I should read these. In the age of Satya, truthfulness, your forelegs were established by the 4 principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. But it appears that 3 of your legs are broken due to rampant irreligion in the form of pride, lust for women, and intoxication. 25, you are now standing on 1 leg only, which is your truthfulness, somehow or other hobbling along. But Coral personified Kali, flourishing by deceit, is also trying to destroy that leg. So that's where he knows now, okay, this bad guy is Kali. He knows who everybody is now. And he said, 26, the burden of the earth was certainly diminished by the personality of Godhead and by others as well. When he was present as an incarnation, all good was performed because of his auspicious footprints. In other words, just a couple generations ago, Krishna was walking the earth, leaving his beautiful footprints were marked with auspicious signs, and the earth was very happy. And now the earth is missing that. So he says in 27, now she, the chaste one, being unfortunately forsaken by the personality of Godhead, laments her future with tears in her eyes, for now she is being ruled and enjoyed by lower class men who pose as rulers. So we not only have the situation of the bull and the cow in modern times, we have the situation of religion and the situation of earth in modern times. We talk about religion a little bit. The situation of the earth is everybody's talking about global warming. Everybody's talking about using up resources. Everybody's talking about the, greenhouse gases. Everybody's talking about pollution, erosion, depletion of soil, all these things, chemicals and being used and so on. All these things are going on. It's intimately connected with cow protection. So therefore, Mother Earth took the form of a cow to show that intimate connection. Why? Because the biggest polluter in the world is these massive feeding operations of billions of animals, concentrated, so that they have to, millions and millions of acres around the world that could be feeding people are feeding cows to grow big, and then the waste is in one place, it can't compost, so it pollutes, and it makes methane, it pollutes the water. To grow all this food, they're using chemicals, they're eroding the earth to plow it all the time, and so on. It's a whole system. Lack of cow protection is lack of earth protection. It's a whole unit going on here. And nowadays people still don't really want to look at the meat eating as a factor. They talk about everything else like automobiles and everything, but they don't really look at the factor of the methane gas and all that pollution, everything that's going on there. Not to mention all the bad karma, not to mention all the suffering, so much, millions and millions and millions of suffering animals that comes back, and we cannot have a peaceful earth. So it goes together, earth and cow protection goes together, and religious principles is all in that same bundle. So this is why the personality of religion, who is Dharma, who is Yamaraj, is walking the earth in the form of a bull. And Mother Earth, feeling that all the problems coming, is walking the earth in the form of a cow. Because we have to understand this whole picture. So this is really important because here in New Talavana, we have a farm, we have cows. We're trying to establish Brahminical culture. We have deities, we have regulative principles, we have the culture that we go by. We have, and we try to grow some food, we're trying to increase that again. And we have cows, we're protecting them. We're using their milk, we're making ghee, we're bringing ghee, and so on. So we're trying to establish, that's the task of the ISKCON farms, to establish Brahminical culture and cow protection. And we have to establish them properly, which we're only partway there. We are partway there, and we have to have courage and understanding to keep going and getting better and better. And we have also, we can't change the whole world, but there's a thing in the Bible, a verse in the Bible that says, like the yeast, a little bit of yeast makes the whole bread rise. So, and yeast bread, yeast is a little bit of you know what yeast is. Everybody know? You know, you just cook that bread. Yeast is like little tiny microscopic things that make gas that make the bread rise, and you have, you know, nice soft bread. And so just a little bit of it makes the whole dough rise. So a few Hare Krishnas doing things right can make the whole lump of modern society rise. Already there are more vegetarians than there have ever been, and there are animal rights activists, and there are people trying to live back to the land, and people trying to organic farming, avoid pollution, Eastern cultures and philosophies. Already all this is happening, and it's only going to increase. So this is our task, and we need to focus on it. We need to teach about it, and we need to understand for the third level here. We need to understand how to protect it. So the third level is about application. This is in the conversation between Purush Maharaj and Dharma, where it seems that they are contradicting each other, yet they are congratulating each other, yet it's like they're talking in code to show that they understand each other. Because, oh, here's the one. Okay, this is text 22. The king said, "O you who are in the form of a bull, you know the truth of religion, and you are speaking according to," this is interesting, "the principle that the destination intended for the perpetrator of irreligious acts is also intended for one who identifies the perpetrator. You are no other than the personality of religion." Now that's a mysterious statement. So just because you know who did something wrong, you're going to get the same karma? According to the purport, Prabhupada didn't say you get the identical karma. Somebody commits a murder and you say he did it, and you get the karma for it too. Not that, but what it is, if you have no philosophy, and if you just think that you see somebody do something and they're the total doer, then you are as materialistic as they are, and you also get your materialistic karma. You're also stuck in the material world. That's what I understand it to mean after studying the Prabhupada's purport and his explanations. So both Purush Maharaj and Dharma understand that the apparent doer is not really the doer, but they are both punishers. Yamaraj punishes all the conditioned souls when they die. They have to go from human birth. When they die, they have to go to Yamaraj, and he delivers the punishment. Before death, on this planet Earth, Purush Maharaj is the punisher. He has to make the judgment and punish. He has to know, and they both have to know religious principles, and they both have to know philosophy, for one thing, so that they can make correct judgments, and for another thing, so that they can do this duty of punishing other than not out of mode of passion, not out of anger or other emotions, not out of pride or self-righteousness or false ego, not out of any of those reasons, but simply out of duty, just out of duty to religious principles. And the punishment, even if they have to kill somebody, the punishment is to protect society from more of this happening, restore order in society, which is justice, and to make sure it doesn't happen again, and to be the agent of some of the karma. A king, a proper king, who is under the Brahmanas and who is in the Brahminical culture system, he's authorized to be an agent of karma. So if somebody commits a crime, he's authorized to deliver some karma, and that person won't have to have that karma in their next life. So that's why, under that system, capital punishment was good. Under our system, we don't know if it's so good because we can't trust if it's being done right or not. We can't trust if we got the right person. We don't always have trustworthy judges and so on, because we're all fallen. So there's some doubt about capital punishment for to do the same effect. But that's what capital punishment is supposed to be for. And good government is authorized to do it at the right time. And at the same time, to remember the philosophy and understand. Because there's a verse in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 27, but I can pretty much say it now. The bewildered soul, under the influence of false ego, thinks himself to be the doer of activities that are done by the modes of nature. Goodness, passion, ignorance. The modes of nature interact. Souls are somewhat the doer because they're listed in the 5 factors of action in another verse. In chapter 18, there's 5 factors of action. Only one of them is the individual soul. And one of them is the super soul, and there's nature, and sorry, I didn't memorize it, and I won't have time to look for it now because I get flustered when I'm looking something up in front of everybody. But anyways, the idea is there are so many factors. There's a person's karma, the modes of nature the person's under the influence of, what happened to that person previously that influenced them, their conditioning, in other words, their illusion, so on. So if we just say that person is the guilty person, we don't know. We're not speaking according to philosophy. At the same time, if you have the responsibility to keep order, you may have to take action. So it appears that we have to have both levels going on at the same time. So we have to take the action to protect, and we have to, or whoever is the protector of the community will have to, according to your capacity and your position in the community, there has to be some action to protect, and there also has to be some philosophy to understand so that you're not misidentifying and getting into illusion yourself about it. Does that make sense? So I think that is my presentation of the philosophy of cow protection in 3 levels. And this is our task at New Talavana, to learn this and apply it and teach and teach it. So any questions or comments?
I just thought that this truthfulness that was only remain in these circumstances. Isn't it that's something that can always pull us out of all the troubles?
Pull us out of what?
Troubles.
Yeah, of all the difficulties. You know, if we become truthful to ourselves and to others,
Yeah.
isn't that something that could always save us?
Well, it's not necessarily going to save you from the onslaught of the karma that's already in motion. But yeah, we should be, what it's going to save us is chanting Hare Krishna, and that's part of truthfulness, because we have to admit that we're eternal spirit souls dependent on Krishna. Because maybe we don't want to do that, we'll surrender. But we have to, it's truthful to be a devotee. To be a sincere devotee is truthfulness. So in that sense, yeah. And sometimes if you lie, you then go and tell the truth or something, yeah. I guess. Anybody, anything more to say?
Isn't it that sometimes lack of truthfulness in ourself make us commit self-harm? We become our worst enemy. What's the thing? We're a victim of us, that we are not truthful. Our friends in the AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, the first step is that they have to be honest with themselves. And if they don't do number 1, they can't forget about the other 11 of their 12 steps. They can't utilize that until they become honest with self. It's interesting, though, that the cow went the other way concept, that is still not truthful, but is helping. You have to.
It's truthful by a higher principle.
Right.
He's struggling a little bit with this story about, okay, the truthful Brahmana is sitting there meditating or something, and along comes a cow and runs to the left, terrified, runs away and disappears. And along comes a man carrying an axe. He says, which way did the cow go? And the truthful Brahmana says, to the right. So the man goes to the right. So, did he tell the truth or what's the truth here?
So
The
This
higher
is
truth is that he's bound to, he has to protect the cow.
situational ethics.
Right.
It's more than situational ethics.
The situation dictates what
Yeah.
you should do,
Well, yeah, the situational ethics is,
and you follow the super soul.
yeah, but it's higher truth and lower truth too. If you know that this person who's going to kill a cow that person's in illusion. That person doesn't know that he's an eternal spirit soul, and the cow is an eternal spirit soul, and he doesn't know, obviously doesn't know anything. So, within that realm of illusion, you can act for higher truth.
So the real truth is you should go to the right
Basically, yeah.
because you don't need to kill that cow.
Basically, yeah.
Right.
Sometimes you have to fool somebody, like you have to tell a kid that medicine is candy or something. Like Prabhupada gives this example. You might have to tell a child medicine is candy, and it's a lie, but the higher truth is the child needs the medicine, and you're the parent protecting the child and making sure the child gets medicine. So,
Or it's not going. I worked in medicine about 20 years, and you say it's not going to hurt bad. You take the blood sample,
That's not
and
actually bad.
and they say, "Wow, it wasn't bad," or "Wow, you lied."
There's so much you gotta act according to a higher truth. So you gotta, yes,
Can the Brahmana just refuse to answer?
something like that. Yeah, you could do that too. But
Or
then
the
there's
guy with the axe?
50% chance of the cow get killed. So
Well-
the Brahmana makes that choice. Yeah, Brahmana can. Yeah.
Then,
Brahmana can tell the truth too, but then the Brahmana is a
Yeah.
little bit implicated in the whole
but if
thing.
he doesn't answer, he has danger of the irritating the man with the axe who might kill the Brahmana.
That too. So hopefully, if you tell the man with the axe wrong, he won't figure it out and come back and kill you. That's probably not likely. You just wanted to, anyways. Yeah.
My mom taught us as kids. She said, "You could always say, I can't say."
Yeah, you could do that if you want to protect your... Like Yudhisthira, actually, Yudhisthira was so attached to his principle, a little bit of pride there. He was attached to his principle of never telling a lie. So Krishna asked him to tell a lie. And he couldn't do it even for Krishna. So that was a little bit of a disappointment there for Krishna. I think if I understand right, after that his chariot touched the ground and it didn't quite before that or something.
Ashvatthama is...
Yeah, because he was supposed to say Ashvatthama is dead, and Ashvatthama was not dead yet.
Yeah.
But he wanted to, cause Dronacharya to become discouraged and then lose the fight.
But Bhima did go, and there was an elephant named
Yeah, he killed that
Ashvatthama.
elephant. His name was Ashvatthama, and then he said,
Yes,
"Oh, Ashvatthama
yes.
is no more."
So-
So
Then he
he
could
was
say-
talking about the elephant.
So
not the
Yudhisthira
real
is still
elephant.
insisting on the lower principle because now that elephant had to die. Because Yudhisthira wouldn't tell a lie for Krishna. So still, Yudhisthira was kind of not going all the way, because the highest truth is you surrender to Krishna and he knows. That's actually the highest truth. So, it's difficult. We find our way through the night. Sometimes we do higher things and lower things. We keep on praying to Krishna, reading Prabhupada's books, hanging out with the devotees, hearing, chanting, and doing service and growing. So we understand the Lord's in the heart, and he shines the light. We understand more and more. Anything else?
They're saying that something like truth will set you free. I think it's coming from the Bible or something. Does anyone
Truth will set you free.
know
Where's that come
more
from?
about
Truth will set you free.
Yeah.
That might be the Bible. It's a familiar saying, but I can't quite place it now either.
Right.
Well, the truth, then you have to ask what truth, because there's higher truths. The truth that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we are individual spirit souls who are meant to serve Him, and we're not these bodies. That will set us free. That truth will set us free. Lesser truths have varying degrees of ability to set us free from varying degrees of entrapment. Anything else? Okay.
Thank you very
I
much.
said a whole big story, and look, it's only 20 after 1, so I didn't keep it too long. Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.